Hey guys, it's Lecky, and today we're going to be talking about the good old days. So me and my brother were just playing, BO6 zombies, and almost simultaneously we both said to each other, this ain't the same. We used to play Black Ops 2 and it was just different. Everything about the game, the feeling that you got, the nostalgia, or what you call it, it wasn't there. It wasn't the same. It was like a shell. It was like meeting an ex-girlfriend 10 years later. And then after that, we stopped playing Black Ops 6 and we sat down and we talked about everything. How everything's just different to when we were kids. Movies, TV shows, music, life was different. The way people went about their lives and what was acceptable and what wasn't was different. And then we had to Google it and figure out what the hell was going wrong. And Google basically said, we have a form of like nostalgia. And when you have that, you have a predisposition. That's what they call it, a predisposition to have biases that favor your survival, and people view things more negatively or positively based on past experiences. So for example, one of the first things that turned me off of Black Ops 6 was when I got into it, it offered me something to buy to get like double XP and some guns and some fucking random shit that actually matter. And all I can think about was this wasn't how it was when I was a kid. Like, I remember I played Black Ops 2 and it took years for them to bring in a DLC. You couldn't pay for anything. There wasn't as many transactions or in-game transactions. There wasn't any of this. You could basically just play the game as is when you buy it. That's what it is. And you even got a physical disc, so you own that at least. Nowadays, you have to buy the Black Ops 6 online. You don't even own it, so they can take it away from you at any time, ban your account or anything, and then they'll want you to buy more things on top of that just to play the game against these people that don't sleep and just destroy every game because of the matchmaking. Even when we think about it, when we were talking about the good old days, we felt like old heads. We felt like that's what my dad used to say when my dad was younger. He used to say this stuff, whatever we're talking about at that time in the mid-2000s, would say that stuff is stupid, and it wasn't like when I was a kid. So I'm guessing everyone's going to have that sort of mindset, and how I look disfavorably upon, transactions in games. In 10-20 years, kids are going to think that is normalcy, like someone like my little brother, he's going to grow up and think that paying for things, paying to win and paying to play for skins and shit is normal. That's just what is expected from buying a game, that isn't expected from me. I'm used to earning things, you complete something, some missions or some shit, and you get given something and people recognize it because you earned it, you know what I mean? But this is how they get you. UFC isn't the same. If you look at the good old days, I loved people like Volkanovski, when he was champ, that was top tier. They had the 3 African champs, they had Volk, they had everyone. 2020, that time was good, early Volk career was amazing. It all went down when he fought Islam, probably the second time. The first time he was in his prime, and I think about this all the time. Is someone else's good old days today, like, is someone growing up watching Ilya and that's their next thing, that's their champion, you know what I mean? Where like when I grew up watching Max Holloway and watching Volkanovski, so when I just watched him get knocked out clean, kind of like, changed your mind to be like, I want to go back to the old days, and when I watch movies, if I do ever, I'll watch an old movie, because I can't watch these new movies, they're all woke, every one of them, I'll rather watch a 1990s Disney movie than watch one made now. I'd rather go watch Jumanji by goddamn Robin Williams now than go watch something like the Snow White, and that's the same thing almost spread out across everything. I don't listen to music that was created in this decade at least. I won't watch TV shows that are created this decade at least. I won't do anything that's even associated to this decade because it's all just nothing, rubbish. They didn't put any thought into anything, and they just expect you to nominally watch these things. I don't think I can name maybe one movie that everywhere, everything, all at once is the only movie I can name that has been somewhat decent in the last 10 years. The thing about the good old days is you don't really know that they're good old days until you're out of them. You don't know that you're living in them, if that makes sense. Like right now I could be living in the good old days and I just don't know about it and I'm complaining about it. But this is the thing about memory that I guess curses humans and curses us as a race is we remember things, and memory is the worst. It's a curse, you know. Things like this can destroy you, you know. Now when we think about the good old days, there's not much that could change, and if I could get in a time machine and go back to those times, I probably wouldn't, because I look upon things back in time favorably, and most humans tend to do that too. They tend to, you know, look upon bad memories better than what they did at the time. You know, like a good example for me would be my tattoo. You know, I got a tattoo on my arm, a big one, you know, the same one that the guy has in the video right now, and it hurt like a bitch, yeah, but the funny thing is, I don't remember what the pain was like. I have the memory, I remember the hurt, but I don't remember the pain. Yeah, that makes sense. So, if I went back in time to the good old days of what I thought I was, you know, when I was 12, 13, playing Black Ops and, you know, watching McGregor knock out people in one punch, at that time, it was like the good old days. If I went into that time, it wasn't fun. You know, I just look more favorably upon that time than I do at that time. If that makes sense. Like now, you know, right now, it might not be fun. I might not be enjoying right now. But, you know, in 5 years, I'll be like, oh, I wish I can go back to then. You know, because you look upon things favorably. You know, and I realize this when I talk to other people, when they ask about their good old days. They'll be like, oh, I remember the good old days of working somewhere, some job. I'm like, but do you remember working there when you're in it? And I hated it. You know, and I thought about that too. You know, I just talked to one of my chefs that I used to work with when I was, you know, a kid, 18 years old, you know, and I was thinking, we're reminiscing about the good old days together. And I thought, you know, in my head straight away, I was like, would I go back in that time? And I talked to me, was I enjoying it? And I was not. When I was 17, 18, 19, I was not enjoying cooking food and washing dishes and sweeping floors, you know. But you tend to look upon these things favorably after the fact, you know. And this is why they say, you know, do some hard things or follow your dreams, you know, because you can sacrifice things and you're not going to remember the pain, but you remember after, yeah. So those good old days is what you need to remember, and you can't change, but it's good to at least remember it. But, you know, thanks for listening to me. This is Lecky, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.